Okay, I am live. I thought I was live a couple of minutes ago. Sometimes I seem to click the go live button and I haven't, but it's definitely telling me I am live now. So, hello everybody, welcome to this live stream. I'm trying to talk quietly because my son is live streaming in the adjacent room. So, if I'm not loud enough, please do let me know in the chat, um, and I'll turn my mic level up. I did do a test just now, seemed to be fine. So. I've invited a couple of the usual suspects along, just to fill out the numbers in the live chat. If anyone would like to join in with the live chat, you're very welcome. Today, the topic is JMRI and operations. If you're watching this back, I've got no live viewers at the moment, so I'm speaking to everybody who's watching on YouTube later on. I'm hoping to get to the topic of JMRI and operations and share some screens and go through some of the things that I've been doing with simulating train movements on um, the Newquay branch and surrounding branches for planning for my model railway operations. Um, it's a fantastic tool. I'm not going to go into the ins and outs of it. I might repeat myself a few times once people start joining in. But anyway, yeah, I'm not going to go into the ins and outs of how to do things necessarily. There are lots of videos on YouTube and where else to do that. So what I'm going to do here is explore just what I have achieved with building a whole set of trains for what would be an operating session, showing you the kind of trains that you can build. And I'm obviously representing a British railways operating scenario. So it's British locomotives, steam into diesel era, with some adjustments for build dates for stock, and that will be reflected in the kinds of trains. So hopefully in a little while we'll start sharing some of that. Yeah, I had thought I might get up to the attic to do this, but it's just too hot up there still, even with the windows open. I've got two Velux windows in there. So, um, yeah, I'm waffling on and on now because I'm wondering if anyone is going to join in at any point. It's always better to have somebody watching to feel that you're not speaking into a void. But if you're watching this on playback, do go and look at the JMRI Operations tutorials. We have Richard joining us. Hello, Richard. Can't hear you, mate, at the moment. Maybe Mike. Yeah. So yeah. I'd like to eventually have the attic insulated properly. I'm hoping to start using Patreon to well, just encourage people to join and become part of the community that supports what I'm doing. And with a few extra days off in the week, I may be able to do more than I have in the past. I've still got housework, decorations, and da-di-da to do. So it depends on how I manage to get on. But yeah, I'll hopefully set that up shortly. Okay, Richard, you're muted at the moment. It is showing mic sign there, so but you need to, maybe it's me. Do I need to unmute you? Mm. He's gone away. Hopefully he'll be back shortly. Okay. I will start sharing the screen in a few minutes. Before I do that, though, just a brief update on where I'm at with the layout, because I know I've tried to say several times in terms of an update. It'd be nice to be going up there and showing you, but to be honest, it's just a bit of a muddle. I ended up acquiring quite a lot of locomotives and stock for well from a deceased friend, and the intention being to sell them on. There's been more maintenance to do than I expected, and also my time has been more limited than I thought it would be. So I'm still not uh, finished doing that job, and I need to do that before I can really start the construction project proper. Um, I am in the mood of starting to maybe on here giving away presents or awards or whatever. But I'm linked to Patreon, I think. So if you're, if I get Patreon members, then what I might be doing is every so often an engine will come up for grabs. If you want to take part in that, then do sign up when I finally get around to adding myself on Patreon. Not there yet, but I will put links in the description below, and you can follow me on YouTube, subscribe and like, and then you'll get all the updates. So somehow Richard's not connecting. Yeah, I don't know if Richard can hear me at the moment, but it says his mic cam is not connected. So maybe it's become unplugged. Richard, if you can hear me. Yeah, if anyone else wants to join in. If you're watching this on playback, maybe you've caught it a bit late. Yes, I've got one view. That could be Richard. Hi, Richard. Hope you're all right. Your devices aren't connected, it's telling me. So we're trying to get this show on the road. So plug yourself in, join in, mate. If it's somebody else, say hi on the chat. Or Richard, if you're having problems, you could join in on the chat anyway. Two viewers, welcome to our second viewer. As I say, post a comment in the chat and then I'll know who you are and be able to talk with you. If you want to join in on live chat, let me know. Live chat being video live, the terminology sometimes. Anyway, we're going to be talking about JMRI operations on the Newquay branch today. Hopefully that's what you guys are turning up for. I've always had a fascination, yeah, a bit about the. I was saying a bit about the layout. Yeah, I have sort of basic boards around and a plan for it, but what I need to do is clear things off and start constructing some of the subframes, and then doing the wiring, and then getting the all the foundations for the scenery in place, particularly the Luxellian Valley end, because that's quite a mammoth job. I'll do some videos on that and share that on YouTube. It's a multi-level, multi-layer thing. So I'm using an L girder approach effectively for the most part, and then I'll have risers which come up to the roadbed, as you call it, for the track. But also there'll be some roads and things which also need a roadbed, and then on the Luxellian Valley sides there'll be pathways. They all need sculptured in, and then there's a large viaduct to construct. So, all right, I'm going to start talking about the operations because people are here for that, and I'm talking about other things. But so I'm going to share. Well, I'm going to share a window, and for some reason I can't see the window. I know it exists because maybe I have to have it actually enlarged like that. Let's try that. Ah, that's better. Okay. Hopefully people can see that. This is quite a lot of information on the screen, but this is the train screen in JMRI Operations, and I want to be able to see if anyone else is joining in while I'm doing this, so I need to just reduce this a bit. Let's just pull that down there. Anfield Road Layout in the Loft. Quite a mouthful of a name, Mr. Anfield Road Layout in the Loft. Hi, John. Hi, John. He says. Hi, mate. Yeah, you're welcome. Richard's trying to join in. Yeah, good to have you on board. Yeah, so we've got a list of trains here. Now, what happens with JMRI when you build trains is that some will fail to build, and that's what the red lines are. The yellow ones are trains which have successfully built. So you can see there's a time down the left-hand side of the table, and in the function column, you have build or preview. So I could attempt to build the ones which have failed again, but they will inevitably fail unless I've changed something. Because I'm using what's called aggressive mode, and it actually does 4 passes in the building process. Anyway, so yeah, the yellow trains have been built. Lee, yes, Lee. Hi, Lee. You're welcome. Richard, device is not connected. You're going to have to get your devices connected, mate, if you're going to come in. So, yeah, you can, if you highlight a line, it shows up in blue on the table. If we look at just the first one here, the first built train, I'll unselect the. Oh, you could do this. You can unselect the ones which have failed to build. For now, it's possibly quite a useful thing because we'll just reduce the amount we can see on the screen, and also we will therefore have the complete set of trains for the session. So that is what I would be looking at using as an operating session. So how we're doing. Sorry, Richard, you're still not with us, mate. And Lee, you're working on the layout. Oh, I've watched a couple of your videos recently, not fully though, so I must go back and watch them properly. It looks like it's coming on. So what we're looking at here then are the trains. So let's look at the first train of day, 0040. It's described in the description field as the 0040 Par Harbour trip. I've got some codes for vacuum brake, air brake, steam diesel, early diesel, that kind of thing. But so this is a vacuum brake train, and there's a function here for preview. So if I click preview, I'll just have to make sure you can actually see that. Stop sharing a second. Share screen. Let's see if we can. Okay, this one. What this shows is a preview of the train. So we're picking up wagons. The train head code is 7C54, the 0040 Par Harbour trip, vacuum brake, and then scheduled work at St Blaise Yard. And we're departing there 0040. And we've got a diesel locomotive, D6304, early diesel. That's just my way of describing it. BR class 22 from turntable 2. and we're picking up all these wagons, including a brakeman. So we've got 7 loaded wagons, 5 empties. It's 366 feet long and 351 tons. And there's no work at Par Harbour Junction. There shouldn't be because there's no sidings there to pick up or drop off, but we're just going via there. And in the scheduled work at Par Harbour, we're dropping off a China clay wagon into the Cambrian clay store. It's a loaded wagon, so that's going, 1 wagon dropping off. And then the rest of the wagons will go on to Par Dock, and arrival time is 01:15. And if I go to the next page, that's the end. The train terminates in Par Dock. So it doesn't, it carries on from one page to the next. So that's quite a nice train, quite a few different wagons on there. Yeah, very early in the morning. And what I'm interested in is how authentic are these kinds of things, because I've spent quite a lot of time working out what would be running, that I can run, that I would want to run, sometimes with some flexibility, because obviously rule 1, I can run what I want. But I do like to try to run, on the whole, authentic trains which reflect what actually took place in reality. And that particular train, what we were looking at then, I've seen a photograph of A22 going down to Par Dock, Par Harbour. I'm interested to know. Somebody tell me. I keep calling it. I think it's called Par Harbour. Is there a bit of it called Par Dock? Somebody will tell me in the comments at some point. Yeah, but so that's one train. Now I'm going to share screen again. So let's go back to the train build window. So the next train is at 1 o'clock in the morning, and we'll preview that one. It would be nice if it just jumped to the screen I'm opening. Richard, can I hear you now? No, I can't, mate. Maybe it's my headphones. It was working all right earlier. Can you hear me okay now? I can't hear you. Don't know why I was muted then. That was very strange. I've probably been talking to myself. Lee, could you hear any of what I was saying just now? I was talking through a few things.
Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now?
Sometimes the technology gets the better of us, doesn't it?
Can you hear me now?
And I'm not hearing you, Richard, I'm afraid.
Okay. And bye.
I'm just going to do an audio test again, just in case it's my end that the problem is. Oh. Well, that's very odd because I can't hear my test, which means it's my end. Something very strange. I'm having to. Can you hear me? Richard's gone. Oh, Anfield Lee, you can hear me, can you? Because for some reason I think I was muted, and then I couldn't hear Richard because my headphones weren't working. There's something odd going on because it keeps telling me I'm muted, and I don't think I am. But you'd be welcome to join in if you wanted to join in the live chat. Having live feedback on the audio is important, particularly when you can't hear anything coming back through the headphones from yourself. Sounds loud and clear. That's what I want to. Thank you so much. It's like it talking into the ether otherwise. Appreciate that. Okay. So I'm going to try to share the next train. So this is the 1 o'clock local trip to St. Blaise, and it's a steam, and it's picking up at Power Station. Power Station are the hidden sidings. So that's basically something to do viewing it through some CCTV cameras, effectively webcams, whatever I'll set up. So they need marshalling underneath and then bringing out to St. Blaise Yard. So we've got a 3828 steam 440 county. It's a 440 county rather than the later 260s. Or 460s. And then parcels, marine parcels, Southern Region horse van, cattle wagon, chemical tanker, mail coach, an oil tank, a vent van, utility wagon, and GWR towed. So again, nice train, 9 wagons altogether, 5 loads, 4 empties. Which is useful. That's a nice kind of length of train with a nice engine on and a brake van. So that's happy with that. That's fine. It's telling me where I'm picking these up from. I need to say something probably about the names of sidings, because people will be wondering why on earth these places are called what they're called. And really, it's because in JMRI operations, you want to say where your trains are going to, even if it's just some hidden siding somewhere for marshalling. If you want them to load and unload wagons, so if it's just a yard in JMRI, it won't change the load status. It's got to be a spur. And so I've got lots of spurs, which are where wagon loads are changed from load to empty or empty to load, which is kind of like the train's arrived at its destination. And so I've called these sidings by different names in order to simulate what's going on now. Richard, are you there this time? Can you hear me? Can I hear you? Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Hear me? You're speaking back to me, I can tell. Once again, I can't hear a thing.
Okay.
Lee, you still there? Because you said my sound was loud and clear. So
okay.
Is it still loud and clear?
The problem is steam yard.
If Richard, you can hear me, I suppose. Can you give me a thumbs up if you can hear me? Yeah, big thumb. Yeah, so okay, I am coming through. That's good. I don't know what's happening with your audio, or whether it's my headphones are not kind of working properly, because I seem to lose them just now. I ran the test and it wasn't saying that. Well, I couldn't hear the test.
My microphone.
I think you're switching the headphones off a minute. Let me just do this. Let me just switch this off a minute. See if I can hear you then, because I'm not sure. I'm not convinced.
Look at the messages. Messages. Can't hear you.
Oh, I know what's happened, Richard. Richard, wait there. Wait there.
Okay.
Hang on, hang on, hang on. Testing, testing. You can hear me fine?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Yeah.
Okay. The problem was on your end.
I'm throwing my headphones away there. I don't know what's going on at the moment, whether it's StreamYard, whether it's my headphones. For some reason, the Bluetooth connection to my headphones is playing up.
Okay.
So yeah, that's fine. You're on my speaker. I'm afraid the mic's not going to be as good because the Bluetooth mic is a lot better than my.
Well, I can hear you perfectly. No problem.
Okay. Okay.
What I did was test it with Zoom just to make sure everything on my end was working.
Yeah, apologies. I mean, it ran the test.
That's okay. That happens.
Yeah,
no problem.
I'll
be right back. I'm going to get a bottle of water.
Good on you. Okay. Cheers, everyone. I seem to have lost Lee. We've got 0 people watching live, which is a little intriguing, seeing as there's a webcam joining in on live streaming. I think that should really say at least 1 person viewing. Anyway, he's not even viewing. Maybe it knows he's gone off to get a bottle of water. No, it still says he's going to put his headphones on, then I can speak to him again. Hello.
Hi. Tell me what I missed.
Eh?
Tell me what I was missing.
Oh, I've been talking to myself, I think. I mean, Lee at Anfield Road has been there. He's been just letting me know that I can be heard, in fact, sometimes, but it doesn't help when I can't hear back, does it? So I think half of my headphones were working also. I don't know.
Bluetooth headphones eat batteries.
Well, you know, it usually beeps at me if the battery's getting low, so I don't think it's a battery issue.
Yeah. I assume that's a cup of tea.
Cup of coffee.
Ah!
I prefer coffee
in the UK. Wow.
Yeah. I mean, I'm a little unusual. You know, there are quite a lot of coffee drinkers here. I've been converting my missus to coffee as well. She's much more of a coffee drinker than a tea drinker now.
No, I've been addicted to coffee ever since I went away to the university.
Well, when I used to work in Smith's Industries on the manufacturing, the coffee machines, you know, you just had to make use with what would come out of the machine. The best thing was the coffee, and that wasn't great.
Well, the French the French comment on coffee from coffee machines is it's juice from wringing out a pair of socks.
Yeah. Oh, thanks, mate. That's lovely. Right. I'm talking JMRI Operations. I've been sharing a couple of screens and talking about what the trains are that I've been building. And the purpose of this live stream today, which is on YouTube Live, is to talk about JMRI Operations. So we'll have a bit of a question and answer at the end, Richard, and I'm glad you're here because it makes me feel like I'm not alone in the universe. But I don't know. Have you looked at JMRI Operations at all?
No, not at all. Operations will only work if you can get the sensors working, and otherwise it's not worth it to go after operations.
I disagree.
Okay, then
yeah. It's got
let me hear what you have to say.
It's got nothing to do with any sensors. You can run it completely independently of the layout. It doesn't have to be connected to any hardware. It's purely like the old card system for wagons that people used to use.
Well,
Where they would have every wagon has a card,
yeah,
and then you can make up trains by putting your cards together.
but you have to have a layout with locations, do you?
Well, I mean, you tell it what the locations are, but you don't have to have physical locations if you don't want to. You could just do it as a simulation, effectively. So, but obviously, if you're trying to reflect an actual layout and you want to use it for operations on an actual layout, then you're going to get into the question of how long are your sidings? How do you get the routes in operations to reflect where your trains are going to go on your layout and that kind of thing? I mean, to be honest, if you've just got a roundy layout and you've got a couple of sidings, is it worth doing? It probably isn't. But if you've got something which is a bit more substantial, then it's worth thinking about if you want to try to use something which is going to give you, I think, a lot of fun, actually. It depends how you want to use it. I mean, it's like a lot of these things, it's horses for courses in a way, but what you want to do with it, you can probably find a way of doing it. It's very flexible. So yeah, it's I mean, I'm not connected to the layout. I'm running this. I'm calling it simulation. In a way, it's a simulation, but it's not even using JMRI Simulator. I don't have to have a panel loaded. I can just look at the operations train build screen. I can build trains. I can terminate trains. I can move trains. It doesn't actually have to have a panel even. So yeah, what's the point? Well, one of the things that's very useful is if you want to try to work out how much stock you can realistically move around your layout, because I mean the tendency with model helpway enthusiasts is that the next time they see a lovely wagon in the window of their local train shop, they have to have it, and before you know it, you've got way more stock than will ever fit on any layout. I'm sure this doesn't apply to you, Richard.
I'm more conservative. I have a bunch of locomotives, but my main thing now is to try and get my detectors working, which they are, and to put them onto the tracks to be able to manipulate occupation, start, stops, and sidings and things like that. Once I get that going, and once I get my track bed sufficiently stable, then I'll probably look into operations.
I mean, if you...
But let me put it this way. I've got on my track, I've got two ovals interconnected. One of the, both ovals at one point go into a station, and each oval has two tracks within the station. And then another part of my layout, I have 5 sidings. So I'm set up to be able to do that. I'm set up in my mind to be able to do that.
Yeah. From the point of view of realism in getting realistic train movements on a model railway, I mean, one of the traditional ways of doing that is to work out a timetable and then have a fixed timetable for an operating session. So you and sometimes people use index cards, don't they?
I've seen that, yes.
Yeah, sometimes they have them visible on the front of the layout, and as they flip it over, it tells you on your side what to do next, and on the other side, it's telling the punters what's going on the layout, which is quite a useful way. But running to a fixed timetable like that requires getting something set up in terms of the timetable ahead of the game. It requires a fair little bit of planning, It could be done in JMRI. To be honest, it could be done in JMRI Operations, and it would be a lot easier rather than trying to do it manually. I can explain that, but what you end up with is a fixed scenario which you repeat each time you do an operating session, which is fine if that's what you want to do. With the approach that I'm taking with JMRI Operations, it's to say, well, let's pretend that we're a real railway. Let's get the computer to do the hard work, which is working out where all the wagons are, working out what train formations it can build, working out what locos it needs, and then applying them to the schedules that I've pre-put in, with the routes which I pre-put in, with the requirements for loading and unloading that I've pre-put in. So there's a lot of work that's gone on beforehand. But then when I press the build button, it builds me all the trains that it can build for that day. And I then have the fun of having the surprise of not knowing what's going to be coming up, and the joy of running trains maybe which I've never run before, the excitement of of being a real train spotter when something completely unexpected turns up, because it can. That introduces a whole new realm of operating, which isn't possible in the preset kind of manufactured scheduling.
It would seem to me that perhaps a simple way to start this thing will be not to look at a goods train, but to look at a passenger train.
I have some of those.
Yeah. Leaving the station.
Yeah.
Pulls into another station, at which point the line will divide after that station. So you'd want to drop off a couple of passenger cars and put in another locomotive, which goes to one destination, and the current train will head for another destination. Do you see what I mean?
Yeah. Well,
but there'd be one thing I'd be curious about in terms of operations here. I'd be running trains on a finite oval. So it might be interesting to say have the destination, I don't know if it's possible, say 2 or 3 times around the oval before it arrives at the destination.
Well, what you can do is you can, for the purposes of your routes, you can have alternative names for things. To be honest, I've not tried it out much, but I believe that you can kind of use hyphenated names for things, so the system will kind of know where the physical layout track is in a manner, because your route goes from way to A to B to C sort of thing, but on the manifest it could show up as something slightly different. So it might be using the same physical location a few times, but it might say something with a hyphen. Okay. I mean, so it's not necessarily. I mean, what I've got with the Par station, as I call it. I mean, Par. If you know Cornwall at all, Par is where the branch for Newquay comes off the main line to Penzance. So that's my starting point for trains coming onto the layout, and really that's my hidden sidings. So that's where all the trains arriving from London or from the other direction, Truro or Penzance would be coming up and coming onto the layout from Par station. So, but in order to simulate what Par station represents in terms of generating lots of different trains, I want to say the trains are going to interesting places like London or like Lostwithiel for China Clay or Foyle, whatever. So I've actually labelled up quite all the different sidings in the hidden fiddle yard as all those different places. And really, I consider that all to be Par station in a manner, but they are actually all different places. And on the timetable, it will tell you it's going somewhere different. You just have to know you're going, when it says that, you're going past station, then you're going into a siding, which is actually in the fiddle yard, the hidden siding somewhere. And as long as you in your head know what these things mean, you can call it whatever you want, really. And your routes can go, you can go to the same place twice. It doesn't matter. I mean, usually in JMRI in operations, if you have something which is the same name of a place twice, it's assuming it's arriving in one direction and going back out in the opposite direction. If they're immediately next to each other, because that will be a terminus. So that's one way of showing that.
Yeah.
I've got a few trains I can actually show you that. If I just go to share. Gotta find the right one. Bear with me a second. Right. Probably better off if I show. Let me just see if I can just share the whole screen, because it's probably better doing that way. Let's see. I mean, you're going to see the whole thing now, which is not fun.
Infinite regression.
Yeah. Hopefully, though, if I do this now, you'll be able to see what I'm looking at. So now, if I preview that, you can see that? Okay.
I see a blank. I see a blank screen.
A blank screen.
A black screen. Sorry.
Black screen.
Yeah. It seems to be some. Yeah.
Oh.
Now I see an infinite regression.
Yeah, that's interesting. It doesn't seem to be able to see it. Oh. It doesn't seem to let me do it. Okay. Okay. Right, one. I found what I wanted to show, so I'll do share. Okay, you should be able to see the edit route screen.
Yeah. Now I can see that. Yes.
Yeah. So down the left-hand side, the IDs are automatically generated, but we've got location. This is Truro to Newquay and back. So this goes. Truro is actually off the layout somewhere. It's again in the hidden field yard. So I'm saying past station.
Yeah.
Is my starting point. In fact, trains don't really go from past station this route, but for the purposes of getting this to recognise where the train's starting and ending, those are actual locations. So past station, and then Drinwick Mill Junction, Park and Dillet, Tolcarn Junction, Newquay. Newquay is in there twice, but you can see there's a train direction. So the train direction is west, west, and then east, because
they have two different IDs.
Yeah.
As you say, two train directions. Yeah.
Yeah. So this works quite well. It just allows you to run an out and back service. In this case, it's a diesel multiple unit, sometimes a steam service, but there's as it's usually a diesel multiple unit. I've only got the next column is moves. That tells you how many wagons you can drop off or pick up. In this case, I've only got one, and I'm saying in the pickups, I'm saying yes, and set out yes. So, but that's after it's changed direction. it's a little confusing because what am I saying? I'm picking up and setting out effectively what happens when it gets to that point in the route. It will say if there's a wagon available to be picked up, it could pick up one, or it could drop off one. That's really all it's saying. And there's no, I mean, there's a random column, and there's no moves in the first column. So really, this is for DMUs, because you don't want to pick up any other extra wagons or carriages at the beginning. But there may be some reason that when you get to Newquay, you're saying, well, there might be a parcels van or something that this train could take. So that's why we've maybe allowed one move there. And the 10% random is a bit silly at the start. That has no effect whatsoever. That's just a historic thing.
Well, what it seems to me, just looking at that, is you're running a shuttle between Power Station and Newquay.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And when you've got times there, so you've got a maximum length, you've got a gradient, and then you've got the X and Y coordinates are where a train icon appears on the layout edit, layout plan. So it will move those around as you move the train each time. It will move from one location to the next. Interesting. Newquay's got 2 different locations, which might be when it arrives at the platform, it's going to go right up to the buffers on one platform, and it might depart from a different platform or further down the same platform. It's just happens to be different.
Well, all of your locations are doubled. I mean, the Newquay location is doubled contiguously, but everything else is doubled also.
That's
with
because
different IDs.
Yeah, it's going out by the same route as it's coming back.
Right.
Yeah. So it literally is an out and back service. I'll show you something a little bit more.
There.
Oh, all right.
I'm okay. I almost spilled the water on my keyboard.
Oh. Let's have a look at something a little bit more involved. Okay, so here we have the 6L29, 6 o'clock Nan Pian to St. Blaise, China Clay, Seaweed. So at St. Blaise Yard, which is a bit odd because I'm calling it a Nan Pian, but sometimes you've got very limited space for putting descriptions in. Sometimes it's 12 characters, and I mean, it's at some point the people who built JMRI decided that's what it had to be, and some of them seem a bit short, but it does kind of keep you concise at times. But anyway, we're really starting at St. Blaise Yard. We're going to Nan Pian Wharf, which you can see halfway down the screen. So this train goes through from St. Blaise Yard. It goes through Power Station where there's no work. There's no work at Drinwick Mill. There's some comments and things. There's no work at Drinwick Mill low level. Then there's scheduled work at Nan Pian Wharf. So from 6 o'clock to 6:55, if we're running on a fast clock, it means you've got 55 fast clock minutes to get your train round there. You've got 2 wagons on there with the 25 Tiger wagon and the VDA. And then at Nan Pian, you're going to set out the Tiger wagon to Nan Pian Wharf siding 2. No work at Drinwick Mill Junction. Then you're going on to Parkendilloch, and you're setting out a VDA to the covered bay. And then you're departing Parkendilloch eastbound with no no wagons, no loads, no empties.
Mm-hmm.
So about 54 feet and 73 tons. That's interesting. That'll be just the loco weight. I did take out loco weights on quite a lot of the locos because I was advised to by Dan in JMRI because I was having a bit of issues with some of the horsepower calculations. But anyway, that's another issue. Anyway, I've still got that weight in there. So no work at Drinning Mill Junction, no work at Par. So we're going back to St Blazer Yard with the 25 when he's going on to turntable 8. So, I mean, that's a bit of more of a complicated run. I mean, there's comments there saying things like all trains must stop, discuss requirements with Drinnick Shunter and exchange tokens, which is just something I've added in to reflect reality. And then Nanpian Wharf reversal at Nanpian with wagons run around at Drinnick Mill low level, that's DLL, back up to Nanpian to set out at Nanpian Wharf. Departure time 6:30. I mean, all this, if you had to work this out yourself, it's an huge amount of effort. I mean, you wouldn't do it, but with a click of a button, this all just comes up. I mean, having put the details behind the scenes in, the system then works out for what it can actually do, and that's a nice run. That's two nice runs on there. You're dropping one of them off there, you're dropping one of them off there, and then you're running the loco light engine back. So that's quite a nice little job for somebody.
Yeah. But what is the purpose of that? To have some sort of operator on the model railroad to execute?
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah. They can view that that schedule in on a handheld. So I mean, if you've got a smartphone, JMRI web page will show up on here. You can do all the operations on your smartphone. So, well, I send all of it. You can't do all of it, but you can actually view things. So an operator could view the trains they need to run. You still need to have somebody who is doing the dispatching, i.e., doing the actual train moves. Once a train physically moves from one location to another, you want to tell the operation system that that's happened. So that means when it's done, you terminate the train. That says all those wagons have now been moved, and the system will then update the database to reflect the actual location now of all those all those wagons which that train's just moved. So it knows now that's the current state of play, where everything is. So you do need to, before you start running a session, make sure that everything is in the appropriate place. If you've been using the software to do operations and that's what your day-to-day activity is, that's fine, because as long as you've been doing that move each time you've shifted wagons around, then in theory everything will be in the right place. Obviously, if you go off piste, as you want to say, you're flying without the operation software keeping track of things, and you start moving things around, then you've got to fix where that all is before you start your session. But I mean, it's how critical do you need to be with that? I mean, in theory, you could be down to the wagon numbers which are on each wagon. And I know in the States, sometimes their operating sessions, they still use little cards which they put with the wagons to show what the actual number is, because sometimes on the actual wagons it's too small to read. So they have a bigger number visible with the card sometimes put on top of the train. Personally, I don't like that approach. It just feels to me a little bit, excuse me, but enough. Somebody's going to flame me now. But if you can tell the difference between some wagons in a siding based on the fact that some are bogie wagons, some are tank wagons, some are coal wagons, some are whatever, then as long as you don't have two coal wagons which look exactly the same and are described the same in JMRI, then you would be able to find the right one. I would argue that if you have two coal wagons which look the same and have different numbers on them in JMRI, does it matter if you pick one of them up rather than the other one? I don't think so, really. If it says you need a coal wagon and there's two of them there, then grab a coal wagon, you know.
Well, that could create problems with customers. I mean, one coal wagon you want to maybe half filled, and the other coal wagon with a different number should be all filled. And if you drop off the wrong one at the wrong customer, he might want to clobber you over the head.
Oh yeah. If you're going to worry about it like that, Richard, then you probably need to be out in the real world doing logistics for transport out there. But plane trains is I think less critical than. I mean, yes,
well, it should be less stressful.
Yeah, there is a level of precision that you can go to with this, which is fine if you want to. I just find personally, if you have to bend down and peer at a wagon with a tiny number on to figure out which number it is, you know, is it that one or that one? It's going to detract from the actual playtime that you get, because you're just stressing about the numbers, you know. I mean,
well, you could use RFID, but that would kind of.
Well, if you're doing something like that, then
it's going to become very expensive very fast.
Yeah, but I mean, I still. I mean, it's interesting because McKinley, you know, is very worth visiting. If people watching have not visited yet, very worth visiting the McKinley YouTube channel and watching their videos. They are using RFID, but they have fixed rakes of four. I think it's 3 or 4 wagons for all the different types of wagons.
Okay.
So they're not going to have this, you know, the problem in a way, because they bunch them together and they call that a consist or rake or something, and that is then what gets moved around, and so it's fairly clear what it is. But
that means they have a bunch of software tracking the RFID.
Well, the software is going to track where those groups of wagons are, but visually it does make it a bit easier to see what you're picking up. But I would say even there, it's still not vital that you pick up. You know, if there were 2 rakes of 4 wagons. No, I mean, the RFID is going to tell the system what's in the train passing over the RFID. If you put some other wagons there and go over the RFID, the system's going to say, well, you've got those wagons. Is that right or is it wrong? I mean, the question is then, what level of control does the system have over what's the RFID is telling you?
Well, I would say 2 things. One, it's right in the sense that this is what the RFID is detecting. So that's the reality. Now, whether that matches up with what you want the reality to be, something else. 2, what do you do about it?
Yeah. I mean, in a way, that's a real world situation where, you know, wagons did go missing all the time. Before the TOPS system, if people don't know of TOPS, it's a Total Operation Processing System, which British Railways introduced back in 1970s, early 70s, earlier than that maybe.
I don't know. No.
Yeah, they introduced completely computerized wagon tracing. I went to a fascinating seminar on that a while ago. It was for its time a phenomenal system. I mean, every card had a punch card. Every car on the British Railways layout had a card. It was a punch card, which had to be actually in a little drawer where that wagon was at the physical location, in the office at that location, or at least the office that represented that location. So what would happen was, when your train was built up, you fed all the cards that were in that train into the card reader. It read all the cards in that train, and it's transmitted all that information down to the next destination. They would print the cards off there, and then when the train got there, they would then say, "Oh, this bunch of cards, train has arrived. We'll now put those into the right sidings," and it literally was done using cards like that, readable by the machine.
Now what you'd want to okay, that was in the days of mainframe computers.
Introduced, yeah.
Now what I would probably do is set up a database.
Yeah.
Each debatable, each car would have an ID. So you'd have a table of cars. You'd also have a table of locations. And then you would be moving within the database. You would be able to pinpoint where each car would be with respect to a location, and your transaction would be 1 to construct trains and 2 to move the trains from one location to the other, which would automatically move the cars.
You've just described what JMRI Operations does.
Well, it's logical.
It is entirely logical.
I mean, the variations on it, like if a car goes from A to B, is when it's at B, is the car attached to a train or not? And if the train or whatever. I mean, there are all sorts of questions you'd be asking when you start looking down into the thing.
There are. I mean, one of the things that may be an issue for me still is the fact that I described the storage space that I've got based on the siding lengths, and then I think, yeah, when you build the trains, it's more visible with passenger trains, because I mean, in a way, with the freight train, you kind of shunt the wagons all together and then you depart. With a passenger train, you want the passenger train to be at a platform, and you want that platform to be available for that train. And normally you wouldn't have other vehicles in the same platform. So you don't really want, to have to be thinking about shuffling things around to that extent. And unfortunately, at the moment, JMRI Operations doesn't have the distinguishing capability, unless there's a way somebody can tell me, of saying this is a platform. I mean, it's actually it was designed principally as a freight movement system.
Well, that's because of it was designed in the United States.
Yeah.
If it was designed in France, it would be designed based on passengers.
Yeah.
I'm not sure how the UK would handle it.
Yeah, I think we'd probably start with the passenger system, but I'm not too fussed about that, because what I'm saying to anybody who wants to come and be an operator for sessions on this layout will be, you have the freedom for your area to manage your space. So if the computer's saying store these wagons here, there, and there, then you can do that if you want to. But if it actually means occupying platform space, that you've got another train that you want to shunt into that platform to depart from, then you will probably want to put those somewhere else. The system will think they're somewhere at Newquay. You've not got many sidings at Newquay to look through to find what it is. As long as you're the operator there, you know where you put it and where you can get it from. If you need to load it onto another train, then I'm not too worried. Most of the time they'll be spottable by the type of vehicle they are. So on the whole, it shouldn't be. I don't think it will be an issue. I think it's more of an issue for Americans trying to do things with this system precisely, because you do need then to have spare lines which are set up to. Well, I mean, you've got I'm trying to think of the word now. if I go into my locations, you can't see what I'm looking at the moment, but you have the option for tracks to be called spurs, yards, classification, stroke interchange, or staging. Now, I think classification interchange is where a train would be made up to be sent out. So I could call platforms classification stroke interchange sidings. The problem with that is that for passenger trains, well, does it matter? I mean, it's an interesting one. For passenger trains, they wouldn't, if the platform was the interchange, classification interchange spur, it wouldn't load and unload them. And you can't, it wouldn't be generating traffic for the classification interchange siding, because that isn't what JMRI does. What JMRI does is generate traffic from loading points to either to unloading points or to places which are called loading unloading places, which could be a yard, but it's not a classification interchange track. So you wouldn't be able to generate passenger traffic from a CI, as they call it, CI track. So I'm a little, yeah. So my sidings in my stations, I mean, there's only, from the point of view of doing that, it's only Newquay that's really relevant. Although I've got a station at Luxullian, and there's also a very little used station at St Blaise. They generally speaking, the stations are off layout. They're in the hidden siding somewhere. So it's not a huge issue for me. But I do run a lot of passenger trains, and it's an interesting thing to try to see whether that could be improved in JMRI, whether there could be a feature within JMRI which allows passenger trains to be more effectively managed and used. I think at the moment it's not really set up for that in that way. So you have to kind of work around it in a sense.
My guess is JMRI people would probably be not that interested. They're freight. It seems to me, and I could be wrong, they were really freight focused.
Yeah. I don't think it's much to change to probably do what might be required for that. Also, I think it's there's a growing community of users which are interested in passenger. The number of queries I see on the forum for people wanting to use this for passenger traffic is growing. So I think it's something that could be looked at, certainly. And if it was clear within JMRI Operations that this was possible, you wouldn't end up, as I have done, going down a bit of a rabbit hole trying to figure out how to do it, and then basically a kludge to just make it work. And with some level of trepidation about, at the end of the day, I'm going to be relying on the operators to make sure that those lines are freed up to build the trains in that are needed. I mean, one of the negatives of my whole approach, which is probably my main concern for all of this, is that I'm doing it on the basis that each wagon and carriage can be shunted at the end of each route, or during the train's passage from one place to another. It can be shunted. This effectively is saying there's quite a lot of work for the people at both ends of the line, and there's work for people in between. Particularly, and the most challenging work would be for whoever's looking after the hidden sidings past station, because all of those sidings will be constantly requiring shunting, and that's a challenge in as much that it's all hidden stuff, so it's only visible through remote cameras. And so whoever's doing that has got to be staring at screens and doing shunting based on what they're seeing on cameras. And there's quite a lot of shunting to do for that to make it work. I mean, it gets easier in some instances where trains look as if there's a lot of work going on, but actually there's no pickups or set outs for some while, and then it's not actually carrying on down the line somewhere else. So there's no reason for doing anything complicated. And then sometimes it will say drop off a wagon and pick up a wagon, and it's the same type of wagon. And there's no reason for having to do anything in that situation unless the wagon's in a different siding to where, you know, if it's starting and ending in a different siding, then you'd lose a wagon effectively if you didn't do it. So you need to keep an eye out for that. But it is doable. I think there's going to be various levels of skill for operators. You know, starting out with those who are on the upper levels at a simple small station and got responsibility for shunting a few sidings, to working Newquay, which will be much more involved, to then working the hidden sidings, which again will be kind of like top engineer status for managing that. And if you manage to pull it off in a session without pulling your hair out, you'd be doing well.
Well, it would seem to me what you have to do is write up a proposition, one which would serve two purposes. The first purpose would be to get things organized and straight in your mind. I mean by that, having something written. Then it would be to show it to somebody to see what they think of it, which would probably result in changes or modifications.
Yeah, I'm hoping in a way, Richard, that
then submit that.
Yeah, I mean, well, let me say two things. One is I hope this kind of forum will be a way of people being able to share what's going on with this and to bring their concerns and to take part in operating, even potentially remotely. You know, which is there is another layout which is doing that. So there's no reason why that couldn't happen.
Mm-hmm.
It's a challenge in various ways, but it is potentially possible. But the other is that JMRI, when you're in terms of describing what's happening at each location, you have the manifest lists. So to help an operator know what they've got to do, I'll just bring up that now because or they're called switch lists. I'll just bring up one for. Okay. Right, I'm going to share. Okay, so this is another thing that you can give to your operators. So this is a switch list for Newquay.
Okay, so what they do is check boxes off and work their way down the list.
Yeah, they work down the list, and this can come up on your handheld smartphone device as well. So it tells you, you know, schedule work for train 1VO2, 425 ex London Newquay is arriving 6:15. So it departs Par Station at 4:25. Expected arrival 5:35. Arrives northbound, and you're going to set out. Here's the diesel locomotive that's going into the freight siding. This passenger carriage is going into platform 2. This one's going to platform 1. Platform 1, buffer. That's platform 3 buffer, and that one's going to platform 1. So then, you know, a bit later on, you've got the 2C35 Truro to Newquay and return. So this is our shuttle service we were talking about. That's going to be arriving. There's no car pickups or set outs for the train, but it is arriving and departing at arrival 8:35, and then departs at some point, which is not very clear. And then there's a 1M57. So this is departing from Newquay. So this one needs preparing. And it's a diesel from the carriage freight zone 1671. Different diesel, different 47. with 4 passenger carriages from various places. And of course, where it says, we're bringing these carriages from platform 1, loco shed 1, platform 2, whatever, platform 3, they won't depart from all the separate platforms. The train needs to be shunted into a platform, please.
No.
You can't tell your passengers you're departing from platform 1, 2, and 3.
No.
So yeah, this is that kind of highlights the type of thing that the operator's got to just get their head around and be able to manage. But then it will be,
Well, I mean, for example, if you wrote up just what you said and put that into questions, I'd be interested to see what the JMRI operations people, how they'd react. If you're saying, well, you have to tell you can't tell the passenger he's going to be leaving from 1, 2, and 3, he won't like it. How do you solve that problem?
Yeah. I think it's interesting. I mean, I like these kinds of questions, but it's not for everybody. But I think in terms of just, I mean, I've got build dates set in there, so these trains look authentic because the build date and the stock has got build dates on, so it will create trains which have an engine which is appropriate to the carriages and that sort of thing. So whereas, I mean, some of the trains are more modern, some of them are older, it will, at least you'll be running what look like authentic trains in and out. I mean, you might have things at the platforms which are from different eras.
No, I have different period engines on my
layout. I mean, you can do it so you set the era and you build trains. The challenge with that would be that, well, you'd have to get, I think McKinley are planning to do this, and they're calling it the time machine. They've got loads of hidden sidings called Hades, and effectively what they're doing is they're hiding all their trains for different eras, all blocked up behind each other, and then they'll run an era. So all the trains that come out for a particular session will come out at the same time, and they will then, they've got the space to do it. They've built a massive amount of hidden siding. Most people are never going to get to that. No. So there's a level of either you physically take stuff on and off, or you hide, you just don't use things, or you allow the build process to ignore certain stuff because you set the date for the session, which you can do. I mean, there are different degrees that you can go to with it to end up with the kind of scenario that you want. But JMRI Operations to me is got a load of flexibility in it for doing things like that. And at the end of the day, once you've decided what your schedule routes are, what your kind of cars are, what you've got on the layout and things, you hit build, and you get the pleasure of seeing all those new trains pop up in front of you, which and the locos are picked based on the weight of the train.
Well, I wouldn't mind running I wouldn't mind running a train from 1901 on the same tracks as a high-speed train. I just make sure that the high-speed cars are not mixed in with the other ones. But.
Yeah. I mean, I agree with you. I mean, I like to reflect different eras in the trains I'm running, and I mean, I haven't got it perfect. There's a few trains which I've noticed in the ones which I've built at the moment on there, which have got there's some green Southern Region carriages showing up with loco on the front, which would not have been having that unless you're talking about today's trains, because with special trains now, sometimes you get all kinds of things. But
I buy a locomotive if it looks nice and interesting.
Yeah,
I don't particularly care what era it's from.
Yeah,
and I have some cars to go along with the locomotives.
Yeah, I think most people are like that, Richard. I don't think that you're unique in any way. I think that's what people do. I mean, when you start out with a train set, you don't go, oh well, this is going to be a an industrial layout based in 1938, and
Right.
all my trains are going to be 1930. You don't do that when you start with model railways.
Right.
You start somewhere else. But I mean, people do specialize and go down that route, and
No problem. If they want to do that,
it's up
pick
to
it
them.
up.
You know,
And
yeah.
yeah, and they have fun. They have fun doing that. It's not my cup of tea.
Hmm.
I want to put a maximum number of switches and things and ovals, and to be able to run a couple of trains at once. And I go from there. Unfortunately, I have to put some get more track. I have to put up some layers now. Put a bridge or a viaduct or something. But scenery doesn't interest me, for example. On the other hand, it interests a lot of other people. So, it's all up to them.
Well, I think I'm feeling that we've gone an hour and 20 minutes, so that's quite a good long session. Well, I've been going an hour and 20 minutes. You've been on a little bit shorter, Richard, because
right. I've had a couple.
But
it's hot here in Paris, and I'll be going out.
It's hot here as well. Yeah, it's hot here as well. I've got a bit of maintenance to do outside. I've got a drain pipe which was rusting around some of the connection pieces.
Yeah. Well, we're going to have We're going to have thunder and lightning storms.
Yeah, we're probably going to as well
tonight.
So I want to get the paint on before all that.
Okay, well, God knows what the temperature was going to do over where you are on the other side of the channel.
It hit 30 yesterday.
Well, it's 30 about here now,
Yeah.
But tomorrow it should be about 22, 23.
Yeah.
And the problem is you guys have a high pressure zone over the UK. So that'll probably stick around a tiny bit, and but we're going to get cold weather here on this.
Don't know. Have you spoken to Roy recently? Is he okay? I did send him an invite, but
I'll probably talk to Roy later on this evening. Yeah. I've got my infrared. I've got these little infrared detectors working now.
Okay.
With my electronics. Now what I have to figure out is how to do wiring. Because if I want to start putting signals on my layout, and I'm going to have a mess of wires. I'm probably going to have to use some sort of terminal, not terminal strips, but blocks, then use relays. Have things go onto a module block and have other wires going from the block to these black boxes. And to control the wires, somebody came up with the idea is, I don't know, you have cable, you have sort of hollow cables, which can open up and you can stick the wires and they can run down the inside of the thing to get rid of the rat's nest. But each signal you want to put in is going to have 4 wires.
Mm-hmm.
And that adds up very fast.
Yeah. I mean, I think localizing kind of clusters of units to...
That's what I've done for the switches.
Yeah, I think that's probably the best.
And that's what I might have to do for my optical detectors. I'll see how that goes. I've been testing things out on an Arduino, so now I know how they work.
Yeah.
But Roy is going to Rockrail.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the reason is one, if you, it's easier to see defined routes and control trains going from block to block. Rockrail is a bit simpler, and if you don't want to get involved with signals, Rockrail isn't that bad. If you want to get involved with signals, forget Rockrail. But if people just want to run trains, you can and they're not worried about blocks or Rockville isn't too bad, but it can get complicated if you want to start planning things, because what Rockville has is your train comes into a block, say, oh, it's this long, and if it's a current sensing block, all you know is your train's entered it somehow.
Yeah.
And what you then have to do is tag on a little thing to the end of the block, isolated from the other, which will tell you that your train has reached that point.
Yeah.
Roy is not handling the first thing by current sensing. He's doing it by IR detectors, and has a lot of logic programmed built into his modules that I don't even want to look at. It's too complicated. I have other things I want to do. I'm just going to put thing comes in, current sensing tells me it's in here someplace. And if it's at a station, I'll put an IR detector at the end of it.
Yeah.
So I'll know, or if it's a siding or a spur, I'll put an IR detector at the end.
Yeah.
And I'll keep it simple like that.
Yeah.
Roy is into electronics. I understand that.
Okay, well, good to have you on board, Richard. And
okay.
Hopefully, if I catch up with you on the other chat at some point, because I know you guys still having.
Yeah, we're not going to be. I mean, I've got all my technical problems solved.
Right.
So it's a matter of wiring things up, which will disappoint Roy. Roy's been an immense help. I couldn't have got my IR detectors working on the without him.
Well, I look forward to seeing what you manage to do, and maybe you'll join us again. We'll have
the first thing is to cut these things off, and then put wires.
Yeah.
Well, this can go under the track, but if I want to on the side, I have to cut these off, attach wires, so I can take the little detector and move it out.
Yeah. Well, good luck with all that.
Okay, I'll probably add Normandy next week. I'm going out to Normandy Saturday.
Okay, well, all the best, and yeah, speak to you again soon, and
okay,
we'll have another session another time. I'm not sure. I think I'm hoping my next one will be live from the attic, and I will have an actual layout update from the attic.
Give me some warning by email.
Yeah, I will. If I can, if I get around to it, I used to do it. I'm pretty useless at doing that sort of thing, but I will try to do it. Okie doke.
Okay, bye-bye.
And thank you, everybody else, for viewing, if you're still there. And look forward to seeing everyone next time.
Okay, and get rid of your Bluetooth earphones.
Yeah, try to fix that. Okay.
Okay.
Cheers.
Bye-bye.
Bye for now.